Welcome to the January the 22nd, 1991 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of Grand Prairie of the past and some of those very important people that caused it to happen. We are so excited to bring you our history tape number 138, 138th taping of It Happened, and we are very privileged to have a young man that has spent his lifetime in and around Grand Prairie and sojourning from Grand Prairie, and it's Mr. Jack Dean of the famous Dean family in Grand Prairie, Texas. And welcome, Jack. We're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Ruth.
Wonderful. Jack, I'd like for you to look out into your camera and give us a little bit of genealogy. We'd like to know the name of your parents, and we'd like you to include your mother's maiden name and maybe a little something about them. If you want to go back farther than that, we'll appreciate that.
Well, my father's name was John Henry Dean. My mother was Hazel Brumley Dean, and they're both lifelong. And my dad comes from a large family of 10 children. Do you want me to name the children?
If you'd like to, go
Okay.
right ahead.
There was Bob Dean and John Dean, Rube Dean, Hicks Dean, Odell Dean, Burleson Dean, and then there were 4 girls: Ollie, Delia, Jane. No, there was only 3 girls in that family.
Yes.
Okay, now on my mother's side, she was also from a large family.
Good.
They had, their home was at Arkansas Lane and Carrier Parkway. And in later years, it was called the Stufflebean Farm.
All right.
But that's where my grandfather's farm was, Tom Brumley.
Okay.
Okay, and my mother's brothers and sisters are Burl, Marvin, Edward, Abe, Tommy, and there were 4 girls: Ollie, Hazel, May, and Mabel.
Well, that's wonderful. You have a wonderful recall, Jack Dean. That is wonderful to name all of the Brumley family.
Well, and then there was, in my father and mother's family, there's 6 of us children.
Okay.
It was Sarah,
All right.
Wanda, Don, Jack, Lynn, and John.
All right. And of these, I believe you have lost 3 of your 2 brothers and 1 sister. Would you like to name the ones that are now deceased?
Wanda, Don, and Lynn are all deceased.
They're deceased.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Jack, I know that it's very exciting because I know that since you have retired from LTV, you've been looking into your genealogy and a little bit of the history of Grand Prairie. But tell me a little bit about maybe the Brumleys, if you know anything about your grandparents, maybe the spinoff of where they migrated from before they came to the Grand Prairie, Dallas Metroplex area.
They come out of Arkansas, and the location is up and around, I can't think of some of the small towns, but up in the neighborhood of Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay.
And then there were also some Brumleys that come out of Tennessee to Arkansas.
Well, when they came from Arkansas and Tennessee, did they settle in Grand Prairie proper?
Lancaster.
Oh, in Lancaster?
Lancaster, and from Lancaster, my grandfather ended up here.
Oh, that is great. And then he had this wonderful farm out at Arkansas Lane and Carrier Parkway. Did you ever go to see your grandfather at that site, or did your family live out there later?
No, they lost that farm during the Depression, early part of the Depression.
Okay.
So I was never at that farm. Then they moved on up closer to town and worked. Adair had a farm on which is now Clary Street.
Yes.
And the Adair farm was there. Well, I don't know who this farm belonged to, but my my grandfather farmed that farm there, right next to the Adares.
Right next to the Adares, and that's almost in the territory where we're taping this at Store Cable TV, isn't
Right,
it?
It's right down the street here.
Right down the street here.
Yes.
Isn't that exciting? All right, and what did your dad do for a living?
Well, he did a lot of different jobs. He worked. The first job I remember was American Body Works.
All right.
Down on the other end of town,
Yes.
which I guess was one of the largest companies in Grand Prairie back in the early years.
That's Southeast
Of my life.
28th Street.
Yeah,
Southeast
and,
28th.
Then
What did he do in the American Body? Do you know whether
he was a
built-
carpenter,
He was a carpenter.
and then he retired from General Dynamics in Fort Worth in 1958.
Do you know what he
and-
did at General Dynamics?
He was a sheet metal man.
Oh,
yes.
great. All right. And then your mom, did your mom ever work out of the home?
The only job she ever had was she worked at North American during the war.
Do you know what job she had during
She
the
was
war?
in sheet metal.
She was in sheet metal
Yes,
also.
her and Dad both worked there during the World War II. Of course, World War One, my father was in World War One.
All right. Do you know about his service in World War I? Where
He
what
was in
area?
Germany, France and Germany in World War One. His
Yes.
basic training was over at Camp Bowie in Fort Worth.
In Fort Worth, Texas. All right. And when you were growing up in Grand Prairie, Texas, what year were you born? Let's have that magic date.
I was born December the 5th, 1928.
All right. Here in Grand Prairie or Mesquite?
I was here in Grand Prairie, and let me tell you something.
All right.
I go walking every morning. I walk 3 miles every morning. A couple weeks ago, I run into, I know everybody in Grand Prairie nearly knows Irene Paxton.
Irene Paxton.
Well, let me tell you, she has something to do with my birth. Her mother put the first diaper on me.
How
Miss
wonderful.
Bill Graham
Zora Graham.
put the first diaper on me.
Yes, yes. Well, but were you delivered by any of the local doctors by any chance?
Dr. Copeland.
Dr.
Dr.
Copeland.
Copeland delivered all 6 of us children.
Oh, yes.
And he come. I was reading an article this morning. He come to Grand Prairie in 1902.
And you're one of Dr. Copeland's babies, and
Yes.
we're keeping track of those,
And
you know.
I was going to school one day, and this was before World War II, or about the time World War II started.
All right.
And we were having an assembly, and we only had one school then. Well, Dr. Copeland was there, and they wanted everybody that Dr. Copeland brought in this world to stand up, and 95% of the children in that assembly stood up.
Oh, that was a wonderful tribute to that man, wasn't it?
Sure was.
All right. Now, when you were growing up as a kid, where did you live?
Well, we lived all over Grand Prairie, but most of our life was lived on South Center Street and Southeast 2nd.
South Center and Southeast 2nd
Yes,
Street.
uh-huh.
Okay. Now, when you lived in Grand Prairie, did you go to any of the feeder schools, or did you go to the big 11th grade school up on College?
Well, up on College Street, in early years, that was the only school in Grand Prairie.
All right.
And then they built a little school called Southside
All right.
that had the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
All right. Did you go to that?
I went to Southside,
Oh,
and
you
when
did?
I got out of Southside, I went to high school.
Name me some of your teachers in Southside, if you can.
Well, we had a Mr. Harris. He was a man, which you had very few men teachers then.
All right.
But he was a good teacher.
All right.
And we had a Miss Speck, and we had a Miss Gentry, and a Miss Crabtree. And that's all the teachers I can remember at Southside.
All right. And when you started to school, though, you started in the big old red building up
Right.
on College.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember your first grade teacher or any
Oh,
of those
yes.
lower grades?
She taught all of us girls, all of us kids. Now listen to this, too. She also taught my father in the first grade. Her name was Miss Miller. Not Miss Dewey Miller, but Miss Miller.
All right.
And she lived up here, let me tell you, up around where the LTV Federal Credit Union is now.
All right.
She lived in that neighborhood. And she taught my father in the first grade, taught all 6 of us kids in the first grade.
Isn't that something? Well, that is going to almost be a record for us on our history tape. Do you remember any of your other lower grade elementary teachers before
Well,
you went to Southside?
Miss Dewey Miller had me in 2nd grade.
All right.
Now, Miss Dewey Miller is still alive, and
Yes, she
she's
is.
up in her 90s then.
She certainly is.
And
All right. Any other teachers in your
okay,
elementary grade?
then I don't know who my 3rd grade teacher was, but my 4th grade teacher was a Miss King.
All right.
And that's old Grand Prairie too, she is.
Yes,
And,
all right.
and then the 5th grade, I went to Southside.
All right, now let's get you back over into the red schoolhouse on College Street when you spent the last years of your life, say the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Is that where you went to school?
Yes.
All right. Who was the superintendent and who was the principal?
Mr. Roberts was the superintendent. Miss Woods was the principal.
Okay. A lady was the principal.
Yes,
All right. Now, what was Jack Dean when he went to school? Were you a real scholar and a bookworm and decided you wanted to turn over the world, or were you an athlete, or did you get in the plays or anything such as that?
Well, believe it or not, I loved school. You know, a lot of kids don't like school.
Yeah.
I loved school.
Oh, good.
I was there an hour before school started every morning.
Oh, great.
Yes. First one. First one to school.
Did you walk to school?
Oh, yes.
All right.
And in high school, this is what we're talking about, high school now. I played football and baseball and basketball. And I was never had a real good report card, but I made passing grade. I made B's and C's.
Good. All right.
And I made some A's. Even to just show you, once I decided I was going to really study 6 weeks, I made the distinction roll, made all A's, just to show you what you
just
can do.
because you could knuckle down and do it.
And that you can do it. If
Who were your coaches when you were in all of these sports?
Okay, we only had 2 coaches in Grand Prairie. Mr. Pruitt left Grand Prairie and went in the service.
All right.
So we had a coach named T. San McGill come in.
All right.
Okay, he coached me until I was a senior. Well, when I was a senior, Mr. Pruitt come back out of the service, so he become our coach again.
All right. And that was in football?
Yes.
All right. What part did you play in football? What place on the team? Or give us something about the team and some of your team members that maybe are Grand Prairians that relate to us in history.
Well, what year you want me to talk about?
I'd like for you to talk about any of the 4 years that you were in high school, played football.
Well, my junior year in high school, we won the district championship.
Oh, good.
Yes.
All right. What part did you play on the team then?
Well, I was in the backfield.
Backfield.
I was a halfback.
Okay.
And
All right.
we had a man that went on that team that also went on to pro football, Skeet Quinlan. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not.
Skeet Quinlan.
Yes.
Okay.
And then a lot of these people had Pop Bostick was there, Fred Knox,
All right.
and Pierce Young, and Billy White, V.C. Mullins, Kenneth Fairings. Oh man, you can just go on and on.
Yes, all right. And when you were a senior and lettered in football, how many stripes did you have on your jacket? And what happened to your old football jackets?
Well, my senior year, I was a captain.
You were the
And
captain?
I was a captain, and well, they had 3 captains. W.H. Riley, Glenn Brown, and myself were the
Okay.
captains.
All right. Did you get a jacket?
Oh, well, I got a jacket, but I give my jackets to my daughters, where that, they'll take care of them, and they'll always be in the family, and they'll pass them on down to their children.
All right.
And they get a lot of comments every time they put them on and go to the grocery store when these young men and young girls see them with they notice the dates on their sleeves, and they wanted to know, hey, man, where did that come from? They couldn't believe that they're still jackets that old.
All right. Tell me about your graduating year. What was your class?
Class of 47.
1947 was the magic year. Okay. Now, we need to get down to a little bit more personal things. Name your little children, your family.
Okay, I have a daughter, Kim,
All right.
a daughter, Pam, and a son, Jeff.
And Jeff. All right. Where do these live, and do they have children, and that makes you a grandfather?
I have, they all live in Grand Prairie.
Oh, great. And give me Kim's last married name and all the
Holloman,
Okay.
And she's got a daughter, March the 1st, going to be 15.
Oh, my.
And she has a daughter, 3.
Would you name both of those?
Jamie is 15.
Okay.
And Erica is 3.
That is wonderful. All right, so
Okay.
your grandfather twice by Kim, right?
Right. And then Pam has one daughter,
All right.
Kristen. And she's
Okay.
7.
And she is 7.
And Jeff says he's not going to ever get married.
All right, and Pam's last name?
Is Ganaway.
Okay. That establishes and you kept them all in Grand Prairie, Texas?
Oh, yes. There's no other place.
All right. Now, after you got out of high school, what happened to Jack then?
I joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, we're in the Marines. And where did you train in the Marines?
Well, I went to San Diego, and when I got out of boot camp, I went up to Oceanside for 1 month, and then I went to Hawaii and had to spend 28 months over there.
Oh, how
Can you
sad.
imagine that?
Oh, how sad.
People going to Guam, places like that, and I went to Hawaii, and they made me stay there 28 months.
And you
And I
loved it.
almost cried when they made me come home.
I bet they did.
And let me tell you something about Hawaii.
Yes.
Then,
All right.
there were only 2 hotels on the island of Oahu.
Uh-huh.
If you think that wasn't paradise then.
That was really paradise
Yes.
then, wasn't it? Oh, you bet. Well, after you came back from the Marines, what happened
I
to
went
Jack?
to North Texas.
All right, went to North Texas, went to school all
Yes,
this time. All right, and majored in or minored in?
Education.
All right, and then what did you decide you were going to do?
Well, then I got a job at nights I was going to college. I got a job at nights out the plant.
All right. And when you say the plant, what plant was this?
LTV. Well, it was Chance Fault then.
Okay, for Chance Fault.
Okay, at Chance Fault, they were making a lot more money than school teachers made.
Uh-huh.
So I got into practice teaching. And you know, kids were good then.
Yes.
But I couldn't, I said, I can't put up with them and do this all day long.
Yes.
So I ended up staying at
Chance Fault.
Chance Fault,
And what did you do at Chance Fault? What
I
did
was
your
in the-
career become?
accounting, and I was there 39 years and 3 months.
39 years and 3 months, and spent that in accounting at LTV. And
Yeah.
when did you retire from LTV?
July of 1990, last July.
Last July. And since that time, what has Jack Dean of the famous Dean family been doing?
Well, just mostly taking it easy, walking, whatever I want to do, and I really enjoy it. I mean, it's wonderful.
Well, since I grew up with your family here in Grand Prairie and remember some of your, well, I remember your sisters. I don't remember your brothers. Tell us a little bit about Sarah, because I believe she lives in the
Sarah
locality.
lives in Mesquite now.
All right,
And Sarah is 68 years old,
all right.
and she had 2 sons. The oldest one's deceased. Jack, his name was Jack.
All right.
And then she has a son, Larry, that lives in Kemp, Texas.
All right. Now, let's get down to the most beautiful girl that almost ever walked through Grand Prairie, and that was your second sister that is deceased. And tell us about Wanda.
Wanda is deceased, and she has 1 daughter, and she lives in Dallas. And she lives in North Dallas. And she's a CPA. And what company she's with, I don't know, but she does, I think she has her own company, plus she's some kind of representative for different companies.
All right. Could you
That's
give us
all I
her
know.
full name?
Melinda Marks.
Okay. All right.
And her father, Wayne, still lives here in Grand Prairie.
Okay, that is wonderful. Wanda was a beautiful, beautiful
yes.
lady. Outstanding, outstanding beauty. Okay, and now tell us a little bit about John. I believe you have one brother that lives here in Grand Prairie.
John, yes, he lives here in Grand Prairie, and he was the baby of the family. He's 58 now,
All right.
and he has 6 children.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and he has Deanna, Donna, and Diane. Okay, he has a son, John, who is deceased, and he has a son, Robert, and a son, Mike.
Okay, and where do those that are living live?
Okay, Mike lives in McKinney.
Okay.
Robert lives here in Grand Prairie.
Okay.
And Deanna lives in DeSoto. I mean, not Donna lives in DeSoto. Deanna lives here in Grand Prairie, and Diane lives in Duncanville.
Okay. You have kinfolk. I believe you could run for public office here in Dallas County and probably sweep things.
Well, I've been thinking about it. not Dallas County, but Grand Prairie.
About Grand Prairie, Texas. That's a good idea.
Just thinking, though.
All right. Tell me.
Well, now, Lynn, we didn't go over Lynn's children
All
and
right.
Don's.
All right, let's go over those. Let's go over Don's. Even though he's deceased, we need to get those, don't we?
Okay. Well, we got Sarah, see.
Yeah.
Okay, Don's got 2 daughters, and they're both live in Killeen, Texas.
And you want to name them?
Valerie,
Okay.
I forget the baby girl's name.
That's all right.
It runs over so many names.
We'll think about her in a minute.
Okay.
Let's get to Lynn.
Okay, Lynn has 3 children. Ronnie lives in Arlington, and Kenny lives here in Grand Prairie, and Lynn Jr. lives in North Carolina.
Y'all let him get away then, didn't you?
Well, he married a girl, and she took him back to North Carolina.
That happens, doesn't it?
Yes.
All right. Now, we've talked about all around the mulberry bush about your work at Chance Vault and on into LTV and the fact that you were in accounting. Now that Jack's out into the open and retired, what you gonna do with your life?
Well, I was thinking about going back to college.
All right.
And, you know, there's so many things that,
Yes.
like I told you in the first of our interview here, that I like school.
Uh-huh.
So I've thought a lot about going back to school.
Well, do you have any hobbies that keep you busy?
Well, I do a lot of fishing, but the weather at this time of the year, you can't do a lot. And my biggest hobby is fishing, I'd say.
All right, and of the hobbies of fishing, tell me about your experience with Joe Poo Lake and Mountain Creek, and where do you go fishing?
I fished at Mountain Creek Lake when I was a young boy. My brother Don and I used to catch fish there all the time, because back then you had only had a certain time of the year that you could fish, and the grown men couldn't go in there and fish. But us boys could go in there and fish, and the game wardens wouldn't bother us. But if an adult went in there, he would get a fine.
Oh, I see.
But now Joe Pool, I hadn't went to Joe Pool yet. My son likes to fish too, and he fishes at Joe Pool a lot, but I'm sure that as soon as the weather changes, I do most of my fishing at Cedar Creek Lake, and I don't fish on the lake, I fish in a creek. I have a friend that lives there, and we catch all kind of crappie there in his creek. And so, but I do think that I'll probably end up doing a lot of fishing at Joe Pool too.
In between, if you decide to go to school.
Yeah, well, if I go to school, it won't be in the summer. It'll be in the fall and the spring.
And what would you study if you
Well,
went to
I would
school?
I would like right now. What about Middle East history, things like that?
Wouldn't that be good?
I have learned so much here in the last month or two.
About geography?
Yeah, well, and
history.
customs of these countries.
Yeah.
Just like a movie out now, everybody should go see it.
Yes.
This Not Without My Daughter.
Yes.
And everybody should go see that movie.
Yes.
It's a true story also.
Yes, yes. That's very exciting.
Yes.
Do you plan to pursue by any chance your accounting?
Oh,
If you
no.
go to
Well,
school?
not unless I get bored and wanted to, do some income tax or something like that.
All right.
But right now, I don't have any definite plans.
Do you plan by any chance to get involved with the AARP, the American Association of...
I am. I'm already.
You're already into that?
Already, yes.
Do you go to their meetings and things?
I haven't been to any meetings yet, but I have joined. I have insurance with them, things like this, and I'm taking advantage of all the wonderful things they do for the elderly people.
Here in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yeah.
Well, Irene Paxton will get you involved if you don't watch her, because she plays in the Sunshine Band, and
She's a sweetheart if there ever was one.
isn't she? All right. We have just a few more minutes left. We want to show these wonderful pictures that we have here, and we know that our camera can, if you'll scoot around a little closer to that and point out without losing your microphone.
Okay, this is a blacksmith shop in downtown Grand Prairie in 1908.
All right, and show
And-
us some of the people that are in
Okay, now the only person I know in here is my father, and he is 15 years old here. And this is him right here in the dark suit.
That's Mr. John Henry Dean.
Right.
All right. Do you know who's